Andor Season 2 has finished up, which means we actually have a secret trilogy with both Andor seasons as well as Rogue One. So I'm going to rank Rogue One as well as the 2 seasons of Andor. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I like to talk about a lot of movies and shows on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share your ranking of Rogue One as well as the 2 seasons of Andor that we have over on my channel. We have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. And if you enjoyed this video, click the like button, be sure to subscribe because it really does help a lot. I shot my Andor Season 2 review right before this, and I mentioned in that video that I've been very frustrated with the choices that Star Wars has made ever since being acquired by Disney. And now, this is an actual set of one movie and a couple of seasons of television that I think are actually worth checking out. Andor is one of the lowest viewed Star Wars live action shows, and I think that is truly doing disservice to a show that I think is amazing. So guys, just go check out Andor. I just wanted to say that right before getting into the ranking of this video. Let's just get into it. Coming in last place is Rogue One, or more like least best place, because I still think this is a very good movie. And in fact, I actually kind of have a little bit of a soft spot for this film, because this was actually the first Star Wars movie I saw in the theater. I was 7 years old when it came out, and I saw this film in the theater without having seen any other Star Wars movie actually at the time, and I got into Star Wars the next year. And so I actually kind of have a soft spot for this movie because it was basically my introduction to Star Wars. It was the first one I'd seen in the theater, so I just have a soft spot for it. And I would say this is a good prequel to the original trilogy that works very nicely. I rewatched the film literally right before shooting this video, and what stands out to me more about this movie, having seen the first 2 seasons of Andor, or all of Andor really, right before rewatching this film, is that, it's not even reliant on the Jedi or the Force. And the thing that stands out about this one is that at its core, it's just a very simple spy operation about getting the Death Star plans to this section of the rebellion that leads into our original trilogy. And that's exactly what happens. It's simple, it's straightforward, and because it's not trying to have the constraints of following up a bunch of films, as well as slightly setting up the original trilogy, and you could tell the story with a whole set of new characters, and it works very effectively and is satisfying at the end, even though you know the ultimate fate of what's going to happen as it directly leads into A New Hope. And because it's not reliant on the Jedi or the Force, or you get these very standout sequences. The prime one that people pull from this movie is, of course, the Vader sequence. And Vader's not actually in this movie a lot, but when he is in the film near the very end, it stands out, it pops, because it's Vader in the modern day killing a bunch of people, which is very cool, but also, because that's the only sequence like that in this film, with the lightsaber, with the Force and all that, it stands out and works very nicely. Now, common criticism of this one, very forgettable characters, is what people have been saying about this one. I'm stuttering a lot with this video. Wow, I'm thinking about cutting this out, but you know what? I'll just leave it in here. Now, common criticism is that there's very forgettable characters, and I would agree with that. I don't necessarily care about Jyn Erso or Baze Malbus, I believe that's what his name is. But, Chirrut gets all standout sequences in the action and plays a very similar character in John Wick 4. I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here. And on rewatch, what stood out to me about this one is that I really think that it would work better as Andor Season 3 as opposed to Rogue One. With Andor, they have 12 hours in a singular season to flesh out every single character, give everybody their own sort of internal struggle that they're going through. This one would probably work better as this 12-episode epic Andor Season 3 that's a closeout to the show. It would probably work better as that. But as it stands, it's still a good movie, but it's just not one... It's not one that I re-explore that much, but I do really enjoy this movie, and I just rewatched it, and I still think that. In second place is going to be Andor Season 1. Now, when they first announced this show, I thought that they completely lost their minds. I didn't know what they were thinking with it. As soon as they say, "Oh, we're doing an Obi-Wan show. Oh, we're doing a Boba Fett show," I'm just like, "Yeah, cool. That sounds awesome." And in the middle of all this, you get, "We're doing a show about Cassian Andor." I go, "What? Cassian Andor, one of the side characters in Rogue One." So here they take a side character in a movie known to be having forgettable characters and decide to center a series about him. I was not at all excited for this show, and I didn't even fully understand it when I first watched it. But then when I rewatched it in preparation for season 2, this truly is some of the best Star Wars we've ever gotten since the original trilogy, and even just ever. On the positive side, just for a television show, this one just has some fantastic production quality as well as cinematography, where it was given a $625 million budget, which is a bit overspent for a show with low viewership ratings, but it absolutely does pay off as it's movie quality every single episode, and it moves away from what traditional Star Wars has been all about. The Force, the Jedi, the Sith, none of that is in this show, and instead focuses on the early stages of the rebellion. It's more serious, it's more mature, and it displays just how evil the Empire is. As in the original trilogy, there was a very clear side of who was good and who was evil, but it was just that classic tale. We never really went in depth at what the Empire actually was, aside from destroying a lot of planets, of course. We never really saw any of the real atrocities. What was it like for the normal people, these that realized that this basically evil government is bad and are trying to do something about it, and which would lead to the rebellion. That's essentially what this is about, and it does so in a way that feels cohesive in the Star Wars universe. It doesn't feel like it's cheapening anything that the original trilogy stood for. It feels like it's adding to it, if anything, and that's what I really appreciate about it. It's consistent within the franchise, it radically tonal shifts from the original trilogy, but it feels right even in the context of Star Wars, and it's very deliberately paced so that each character can have their own internal conflict, and you play this out where there's these moral complexities and these operations that they're doing, and what's right and what's wrong, and why are we doing this for the greater good. It does all of that, and it's so deliberately paced. It does have 12 hours of runtime to do this. Now, the payoffs also just feel incredibly earned. They do these little arcs in the show. There's a prison one, there's a one where they break into Imperial base, and it just draws out such big emotions by the time you get to the end of it, and even just all throughout the show, and there's just a great score to it as well, and it's always interesting, everything that's happening. There's nothing that slows things down. There's not that one character that just feels empty. Everything about it is interesting in a way that Disney Plus shows, Star Wars shows, have never even tried to explore. And so you watch this show, and I'm in disbelief that this is something that Disney Plus put out, and they also put out all these lackluster mediocrity in their catalog, and this is the gem in the middle of it. This is the best Disney Plus show to me, and so I really struggle to pick between Season 1 and Season 2, but right now I feel comfortable with this placement, and for me, coming in first place, at least as of this moment, Andor Season 2. Now, this one I think maintains the same quality as Season 1. I gave them both A+. I think they're perfect. I don't think I would change a single thing about them. But, so it was really struggling which one I would place above the other. There were some things that I really liked about Season 1 and Season 2 in not two different ways, but there were some things that I liked distinctly about Season 2 as well as Season 1. Here's what I will say, though. I think Season 1 has the superior first half where it's setting up all the things. I really like what they did in the first 6 episodes. I think Season 2 has the superior back half where it's just all the, not necessarily all the payoff, but all of the things that lead into Rogue One just very nicely. And I think it's a more interesting back half than Season 1. So because it has that better closeout, I think I'm putting season 2, edging it right over season 1. But man, this could change any day of the week. Now, much like season 1, immaculate production, moral complexities in the characters with their internal conflicts and everything. But this season approaches it a little bit differently. It splits up into 4 different arcs and in 4 different years that lead up to the events of Rogue One. And what this season just did so impressively is that none of the arcs feel abrupt or rushed at all. And that's truly impressive when you're covering a large span of time, and whenever it cuts to 1 year later, it feels like they're consistent. They're following up what came before, and in a way that makes sense for the show and for the characters. And likewise, in this season, I think there's more tension than the first season of Andor, where there's just immaculate action sequences. And when action is not what this show does frequently, but when it does do it in this season, they are some of the best moments in all of Star Wars, really. In one of the episodes, there's a big, gigantic shootout that ensues that I absolutely love. That's probably the best episode of the entire show. That's emotionally riveting. It's sometimes gut-wrenching what they do with some of the characters. And speaking of the characters, I just thought that they ended the characters in the show in a way that feels entirely satisfying and earned, and in a way that fits at the end, where you don't need to have a big, gigantic action sequence at the end or to the finale of this show in order for it to be interesting and satisfying. It can just have these small character moments that are very smart. They make sense, like what they do with Dedra Moreau and what they do with how they explore the backstory of Luthen even in one of the episodes in the finale. Just phenomenally done, and once again in a way that Disney Plus just doesn't normally do. And it closes out the show into Rogue One in a way that's just, it's absolutely perfect. I cannot think of a better way. And the final shot of it just makes the entire thing gut-wrenching, kind of happy, kind of sad, and ultimately hopeful, which is something that Star Wars has always stood for. And it's able to rouse such large emotions out of me, out of an audience member. It is just so unbelievably well done. And either day of the week, I could switch around between season 1 and season 2 of Andor. Right now, because I just watched season 2 and I was so impressed by what they did with the finale, I think I'm putting season 2 slightly over season 1. But man, just this show has absolutely been amazing. If you guys have not watched Andor, go check out Andor, please. So for me, both seasons of Andor are technically at number 1 here. There you have it. That's my ranking of the secret Star Wars trilogy in Andor Seasons 1 and 2 and Rogue One. Down below in the comment section, share your ranking over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end, and I will see you in the next one.